What's up guys, and welcome to a car I've known about for the longest time, but I've never driven, except one time I drove a Z3M Roadster at a dealership at least 10 years ago. But this time we're going to get to put the Z3 through its paces in the form of this 2001 Z3 3.0i. We're powered by a 3-liter naturally aspirated straight 6 engine making 225 horsepower, 214 pound-feet of torque. The owner Sebastian has set this car up for autocross, so he has some aftermarket parts like TCKline single adjustable coilovers, a Harddog roll bar for safety, Arc 8 wheels, they're 17 by 8.5 inch all-around square setup with some 245/40/17 Yokohama Advan V601s, full camber toe caster adjustment, upgraded bushings all around, upgraded brake fluid and brake lines, and a subframe reinforcement. Pretty simple basic mods to make this car perform at the local autocross course. Despite this car's diminutive dimensions, it actually weighs a little over 2,900 pounds. Heavier than an S2000, much heavier than any generation of Miata. We've got hydraulic power steering, a 5-speed manual gearbox, strut front suspension, semi-trailing arm rear suspension, which to my knowledge is a kind of more archaic version of multi-link. I think with a soft top, this car's structural rigidity is probably not up to modern standards. But that said, is this car fun to drive? The fact that it's been set up for autocross, Sebastian told me, means it's actually quite loose at the rear end. So how does this car handle on a tight, twisty, bumpy road? Let's find out. We've got the air cranked because the AC is not really working right now. And we're gonna have to put the windows up for audio. Z3, a car I've known about since Need for Speed High Stakes, a game I played back in the 90s before I even had a driver's license. Does it live up to the expectation? Well, it's got an excellent engine, that's for sure. Straight 6, very smooth, barely any vibrations, especially for a car this small and otherwise unrefined. And it revs to well over 6,000 RPM. Very linear torque curve. Not a ton of power, 225 in a 2,900 pound car. I mean, that's basically between Gen 1 and Gen 2 Subaru BRZ levels of power to weight. This car is very nimble, and right away I am loving this hydraulic power steering. So much feedback, just the right amount of weight. It loads up nicely in the corners. Even the on-center feel, I'm surprised to say, is pretty good. It doesn't feel nearly as vague and sloppy on center as I expected for a car of this age. And this TCKline single adjustable coilover setup is doing a great job on this bumpy road. It actually is absorbing all the little bumps with, I'm guessing, a lot more composure than the original OEM suspension did. Oh, I love this throttle response. So direct. We actually get heated seats in this car. Interior is very late 90s, early 2000s BMW. If you've driven an E36, you'll feel right at home with this. Feels solid. Oh, so smooth. Because it's a 5-speed gearbox, their gear ratios are not super short. But because this engine is so linear across the power band, you can just be in any gear really and still have usable torque. The gearbox is typical BMW. Very easy to use, but the throws are a little bit on the long side and a bit rubbery. Pretty good high-speed composure for a car with such a short wheelbase. I'm really pleasantly surprised here. This is much better than I thought. similar with your shifts. This long throw clutch and the shifter, you gotta be patient. But otherwise, you can just flick this car into a corner. It's so nimble. This is a real BMW. It is a car built for driving pleasure. Obviously, we could be driving it with the top down, cruising around in style. That would absolutely ruin our audio. But even the chassis rigidity doesn't feel as bad as I thought it would for a car of this age. You can still feel a little bit of cowl shake over the bumps and when you corner hard. But overall, it feels like a solidly built car. Maybe that's where the extra weight comes from compared to something like an NB Miata. So I get some props from that 8.6. Brakes feel pretty good. They're just stock brakes with upgraded fluid and pads. I think Sebastian said these are on Autozone pads. Plenty of modulation, good pedal feel. Look at this. Excellent turn in. The short wheelbase. We can just keep it in third gear here. Plenty of torque to pull us out. Let's try second. I just love this direct throttle response. It never feels overly sensitive. It never catches me off guard. Every time I tip into the throttle, I get what I expect. It's just a tremendously natural car to drive hard. Some of those bumps back there do make the chassis a little bit unsettled, but overall, for such an old car, this thing handles so well. The rear end could be a little more planted. These TCKline one-way adjustable coilovers, very, very impressive. This might be the way to go for some of these older BMW chassis without spending the big bucks on the two-way or three-way adjustable MCS or Ohlins or JRZ coilovers. One more straight line pull. What a satisfying sound. Oh, I love the Z3. I love this Z3 at least. I've never driven a stock one, but this one is just so much fun to drive. And I keep coming back to this, but for the age, this car feels surprisingly well put together. Granted, this one only has 90,000 miles for a 2001 model year. That is impressive. The owner, Sebastian, has clearly kept it in good shape. He mentioned it was a hand-me-down from his dad, and he's proceeded to turn it into an autocross car. Gotta love that. I'd love to try a Z3M someday, especially a clown shoe coupe, to see if that extra power and rigidity make a big difference. But even this 3.0i model is such a joy to drive. Maybe the 4-cylinder models would handle even better due to the less weight up front. There's so many videos I want to do now with various kinds of Z3, also in comparisons. Maybe this versus Miata, this versus S2000. I think you can pick these up for less than $10,000 now. If you want just a fun, pure driving machine that you want to wrench on yourself and have a great time in the canyons and on a sunny day, this should be a car you should add to your short list. A big shout out to Sebastian. Let me know what you think of the Z3 down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.